Well, I think the main thing was just their hesitation around how will the distribution channel react.
Yeah,
So because they were manufacturer and they were selling to the distribution, and then also the skill set too.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing B2B, the engine for the e-commerce is different than if you're doing B2C.
Yeah.
So B2C, you have to kind of, the website itself is going to have to be different.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
Okay, so let's jump in today's episode. I'm here with Anise and from LeanSwift. And so Anise, if you could introduce yourself to the audience, those who aren't familiar with you, and LeanSwift, what you guys do. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sandy. My name is Anise Madh. I'm the CEO of LeanSwift. I've been with LeanSwift for over 2.5 years. I joined as a COO, and then I took a role of CEO last year. Before that, I had a background in operations. So I was supply chain director, ERP support, and that's how I get introduced into the ERP implementations. So Old Castle is where I worked for over 8 years. We have ERP systems that manages all the operations, and that's what I got involved into ERP implementations, and that's where really when LeanSwift comes in terms of what we do is around the ERP systems.
Around ERP. So maybe a little bit more. I know there's a couple specific areas and a couple things you guys do. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so we work mainly with Infor. Infor is a big software developer. They have 90,000 customers worldwide, and they provide enterprise for companies to run their business. So when the customer purchases a license of Infor product, mainly M3, which stands for make, move, and maintain around the manufacturing and distribution space. When they get those licenses, we come in and implement that system for them. So we take the business processes and try to make sure that the system can support those business processes.
Right, and there's a lot, the big buzzword you're hearing, digital transformation. That's a big thing going on right now in the manufacturing industrial space. And as I understand that's a lot of what you guys help to do there. But there's also the digital transformation that we're seeing, not just in operations and ERP, obviously, but marketing and sales and go-to-market strategies. And that's where, when we were talking before, talking about e-commerce, that being a really big thing that we're starting to see. And that's something that you guys have a lot of experience helping with clients to be able to do that. Maybe you could share a little bit about your involvement on that side with these manufacturers.
Yeah, so e-commerce is one of the business segments of LeanSwift. We have been involved in the e-commerce for over 4 years now. And we work mainly with the Magento platform because it provides a good platform for manufacturer distributors. So we've seen a huge shift. Our focus been for the last 7 years is manufacturing and distribution space, and we've seen a lot of these companies, they vary in degree on what they want to invest and how much you want to put into e-commerce.
Right.
But we've seen a lot of them go to e-commerce and establish presence, and that could vary from opening a portal to customers to come in, look at the invoices, look at the orders, look at some of the products, to a full-blown e-commerce where people can come and order and transact on that system. And what we've seen is a transition. What used to be B2C is going to B2B now, which is everybody that works and transacts in the e-commerce, they expect the same thing that they've seen on the B2C sites for B2B, and that's why we've seen the change. Yeah.
No, it totally makes sense. We had Infor on a couple weeks ago, a couple episodes back, and that was exactly one of the things we talked about. It was that, really customer expectations on how we buy. If we're, the Amazon experience that everybody has. Oh, I need to go buy this. I need to go buy that. Well, A, you go online, and then second of all, you go to Amazon, and then just that experience of buying and purchasing there is an expectation that we have, regardless of whether it's a B2C product or B2B. And I think that's a huge thing that we're seeing.
Yeah, and I think it's not only the experience, which actually should be part of the customer experience on your website to do business, but we've seen customers look at that from an operational standpoint, where you offer this platform where people come in and transact on a 24-hour basis, so that cuts the cost also for, instead of calling the office and
Yeah.
faxing you, or believe it or not, people still fax, or emailing you the orders, especially in certain industries, to going on the website, transacting,
Right.
and then following up on the order instead of calling and tying up some of the resources during the day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, and that's that's a big thing, just all across the board. So I guess one question that I would have is, if you've got a company and you guys have a lot of experience with this, working with companies to kind of make that transition from saying, hey, we're thinking about going into e-commerce. It's a totally different thing. What have you seen, like, with those initial conversations, or at least from manufacturers, like when they're thinking about doing this? What does that process and that stage typically look like?
Yeah, and that's one thing I would say, that we talk a lot about digital transformation, and I think that is should be part of a strategy of any company. Is how do you get on the digital platform to be able to be in some industries relevant, because you have to be there. But as I say, it varies, and I think every company that provides services and products in the manufacturing space, they should be looking at how can I be on an e-commerce platform, how can I build a digital strategy that goes beyond just the e-commerce. And it doesn't have to be a full-blown e-commerce site or for transactions. It could also be, as I said before, it could be customer portal, where we can provide product information, allowing the customer to come in and get more information without having to have to talk to resource, so they can have access to it 24 hours. So I would say that should be part of the strategy. So any company that builds a strategy every year or 3 years, you should look at how can we be present on e-commerce and develop a digital strategy. And some of it goes beyond that. It's more of also providing some services to the customers. Like we have customers that built on their digital strategy of cutting down the paperwork. When customers get deliveries, they will have tablets that they will sign signature, and customers will get invoices. It's just more using the technology today to make the transaction easier and seamless with the customer. So
absolutely. Well, there's a couple key things there that I'm latching onto. Is that, I guess, sometimes, and myself included, when you think of e-commerce, you always think, okay, transaction. But what you're talking about here is, saying, you don't necessarily have to have the full-blown solution. We're saying, yeah, so you can buy, we've got a catalog on there, you can purchase, and we're going to deliver through there. But maybe even just having access to some of that information, not necessarily all that are delivering it, but bringing some of that, back online so you can have a little bit better experience. I think that's interesting, and yeah, like I said, I always kind of think maybe just transactionally, but it doesn't have to be the full-blown thing, right?
Yeah, and I think we have different customers. So we have customers that they are manufacturers and distributors, so they have the B2B process, and some of actually those customers are putting a lot of those B2B transactions on the website. So there are other businesses that work with them, they can and transact on the website, but they also do multi-channel. They pretty much sell to a lot of directly to consumers on those channels. And we have customers that just have one portal, they can open it to customers for information, I would say. And then in the middle we have some companies that target a specific segment of the customers that they want them to kind of push them towards the website. So because they are low volume and stock product, but low volume, they try to push them toward the website, which is a win-win for both the vendor and the customer.
Absolutely.
So there are different varying degrees when you think about digital transformation. It doesn't have to be 0 to 60 all at once, but you could take steps to get there. So
absolutely. And another key thing too, you mentioned there, even in the digital transformation piece, and maybe sometimes people might think, well, that's not necessarily a function of sales and marketing per se, but you're talking about just making that ease of not even the sale, but just the ease of the process of being able to find information, or you mentioned even going to like a paperless type system, and going and making things easier for the customer. And I think I'm a big believer of, always selling. In your business, you are always selling, and it doesn't matter whether sales is in your job title or not, because it's really creating that experience and making things. Because if you have got a great experience, and maybe it's a customer that you've had for years and years and years, but you're making it easier, still continuing to solve those pains, those challenges. In my mind, that's a big function. That customer service piece, just that flow, is really helping to sell, to continuously sell, through that. So I think it's just a critical component to look at it sort of holistically, like that.
And I think it's also the demographics of our customer base is changing too, because I think you see new generation millennials use a certain platforms, certain technology, not only from selling but also from growing your workforce and making sure that you attract the right people. And we talk about digital transformation. Again, it goes beyond just the e-commerce. Also, we've seen manufacturers look at beyond the four walls and look at tracking shipments, overseas products coming in, so you can give better customer service by a promising product. You need to have visibility when your products are coming overseas. So we've seen them that start to branch out, not just looking at what's in your plant, but when that shipment coming in. Also tiny new vendors in that digital transformation to make sure that you're using technology to be able to service the customer better. So.
Absolutely, and I'm a big geek and a big fan when it comes to all that stuff. Taking ERP and using it as sort of your central hub to really manage all of those things. And certainly sales and marketing is just one function of it, but to your point, the supply chain and just all of that, looking at that. And there's a ton of data, IoT, all this fun stuff to really help to manage better processes and get better efficiencies. And so, but kind of going back more on the sales and marketing thing, I'm very curious about, your experience in terms of clients or customers that have come in and said, hey, we want to roll out with an e-commerce solution. Let's say somebody who is being a little bit more transactional with it. Have you had any customers or any experiences where you've had a manufacturer saying we're not selling anything online, we haven't, and we're going from 0 to 60, but maybe not necessarily immediately right out the gate, but over a period of time saying we've never done this, we're going to try this, and have you had any experience with that?
Yes, and we have a customer here in the state of Georgia that all they've done was B2B, and they took the B2C approach. They have price to make sure that they protect the distribution, but they went from doing nothing on the B2C multi-channel. Over 2 years, that segment was growing. That they have to staff it, and that's where we came in with our platform that allowed them to grow. But one thing with the e-commerce and sales and marketing, what allows you the e-commerce platform is really reacting quickly to the customer, especially if you're looking for promotions, recommendation engine, having some catalogs so that are dynamic, because the print days are gone. When you print the catalog, it's outdated the moment out of the press. So I think those are what allowed them to grow, is being able to dynamically change, recommend, price it based on what's going on in the market, and also keep updating those product catalog. But we do have a case in pointing it in one of our customers in Georgia is went from 0 in B2C to growth over 2 years, that in the 200-300% growth year over year. And as I said, they did B2B and B2C. And they kept both markets growing. So
that's great. I mean, I would imagine, were there any particular challenges or any hurdles? I mean, because that's, in my mind, it's kind of a big and maybe scary shift, saying we're going to try this channel over here. And it's a different ballgame versus saying if you're going through distribution, working with your channel partners, your distributors, saying, hey, versus saying, okay, now we're going direct. We're going direct to the customer. And actually, I'm curious. In this case, is it B2B, or were they going B2C?
Yeah, they had B2B established, which is the distributors, but then they wanted to.
So now they were going direct. They were going direct. Can you speak to any of the challenges, or particularly from a sales or marketing standpoint, they kind of ran into, or lessons they had kind of had to figure out a little bit?
Well, I think the main thing was just their hesitation around how will the distribution channel react?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
because they were manufacturer and they were selling to the distribution, and then also the skill set too.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing B2B, the engine for the e-commerce is different than if you're doing B2C.
Yeah.
So B2C, you have to kind of, the website itself is going to have to be different because
Yeah.
you're dealing with different functions that you have to put in. So those are really challenges
Yeah.
more around how do you build a business model that will
Yeah.
protect the distribution
Yeah.
and then sell directly when people want to buy directly from certain outlets.
Yeah.
And two, how do you build the website to where it's different from B2B because you need to figure out some of these engines,
Yeah.
recommendation engine, one of them. And three is a skill set
Yeah.
in-house because now you're developing retail, almost B2C model. So those are the challenges, but the end game is they were able to grow that segment of their business. So
No, it totally makes a lot of those challenges. I mean, I hear from distributors, and you read articles and stuff that they're a little worried. They're a little scared, saying, I think somebody I heard. I'm going to throw out a name, Ian Heller from MDM. You guys should check them out. If you're a distributor, they do some really cool stuff. Which I can't remember the acronym, Modern Distributor Management or Marketing. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I totally futzed that up, but that's okay. MDM. And if that's not right, we'll correct it in the show notes. But anyways, he had his article on LinkedIn. He was talking about the wholesale apocalypse, and worried, distributors like, you guys need to be looking at making a change here because, with the whole e-com thing coming in, it's like, is there a question of relevancy? And I think the answer to that is absolutely. There's still a lot of value, but there will be some erosion, and they've got to kind of have to figure out what to do. And maybe for sure, I would imagine a distributor need to bring an e-com solution. Number one needs to be something to bring in, but I know that's a concern.
yeah, and I think that's a good point that you bring up. It's the distribution channel has a value to add because when you deal with certain products, you cannot just buy and just go ahead and install.
Yes,
you need some professional to help
some
you.
support,
With the specs and certain ways to install it. So there is knowledge to be to be gained or shared through the distribution channel. But I think what people are looking for is just the medium, how we get that and how we work with each other and transact is changing.
Right.
A lot of people, they still want that value, that knowledge, but they want to do it through an e-commerce transaction, or at least have that option so
Right.
that people can go and do that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a value in having distribution channel, but also there's more value to having another option for consumers to be able to get. As I said before, the customer portal is great to get that first interaction.
Yeah.
And then talk about sales and marketing.
Yeah.
We know about SEOs, we know about ads and all that. If you have that platform, it will help you get more access to more consumers out there that they might not know about your products.
Yeah, and that's something that we've seen too, right? You're making that switch. That where it can be a little scary is because the whole go-to-market strategy, from a marketing standpoint and from a sales standpoint, is different. It's like you mentioned, SEO and ads. It's like, okay, we got this engine, we can sell stuff, but now we need to build traffic, and it's like a kind of a little bit of a mind shift in terms of how to do that. But it sounds like you've got some customers that have had some real good success with that.
Yeah, and I think it's the more outlets that you have out there, the more you're present, in terms of the online. The more recognition you're going to get, and the more people can know about you. So the way I see it is really is marketing. It's a new way of marketing is to be able to show up on on these search pages to make sure that you're there so people can find you easily. So
that's ultimately the biggest thing is that we have. We have the way that we buy, like you said, is completely changing, and essentially just have to be found. And the amazing thing is, what we think is cool, is people are searching for this stuff. I don't think that necessarily a full-blown e-commerce solution is going to work for every single manufacturer and OEM. If you're, if it's very solution selling and technical, it's not going to be, you can't go buy an industrial automation solution. Click, but it can get you down the line. But with some other things, if you have the ability to go to direct to a consumer, it's people are searching for this stuff, hey, guess what? We can be found, and we can help sell to you and reduce some of the costs and all that good stuff. So.
And it's going back to the Amazon. I mean, it really some folks are starting to use the word Amazonized.
Okay.
Pretty much because that's
Wait, what is it again?
Amazonized, which is,
Amazonized, all right.
So you use Amazon, and so the industry is trying to say that they're pretty much whatever people are expecting in the B2C world is being bleeding into the B2B. So they're being Amazonized, which means they have to offer the same same features. But we also, speaking of Amazon, there is also a lot of customers are doing the e-fulfillment by Amazon. So that's another way of the e-commerce being out there, is being able to take orders and then get someone else to fulfill them, but you're not doing the whole distribution.
Logistics.
So there are ways to be able to get on, the e-commerce and start generating some sales and marketing. So.
No, absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed you just kind of talk. We could probably go on for hours and hours talking about all these different things. Is there any last parting words you'd like to say to our audience, or?
Well, definitely. It's as we talked about throughout this session is the importance of the e-commerce into the digital strategy. The way we advise our clients is it's just not one piece. You have to look at the whole picture, see where the trends is going. And the more you get on the e-commerce, and the e-commerce is a broad term too. As I said, it could vary the degree. But you have to start somewhere, be able to be accessible to your for your customers, and make sure that you provide as much as you can on that platform, so that customers, potential and prospects can find you easily. And the process is not, it's scary, but there are a lot of tools out there today that were not there 10 years ago.
Very true.
Even for customers that don't want to invest in a platform, there are open source platforms that you could use, can link up through APIs to your whatever ERP system you're using today, that can allow you to kind of start making that transition. So I believe the future is bright in terms of e-commerce. You just gotta make it part of your digital strategy, so that it can have an outlet for your products. So.
That's awesome. So when I'm here, strategy, don't be afraid. And accessibility. That was a great word. Be accessible. You got to be found.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If anybody has any questions or they would like to reach, what's the best way of getting in contact?
Well, we're present. LeanSwift.com.
Perfect. A website. You guys have a website.
The website, definitely. Check us out, and definitely you can reach out through the website. We have contact information.
Perfect.
Yes,
Great. Well, thanks again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. It was nice.
Excellent. Yeah. So, well, we had another great episode. Thank you so much to LeanSwift for coming on here and sharing that. It's a lot of big key takeaways. Again, we echo this on the show all the time, is really that the way that we buy, the way that your customers buy, the way that your future customer is going to buy is changing, and it's dramatically changing. And like we were talking about here, some real big key takeaways is that e-commerce, something that I learned was that it's not necessarily all the way transactional, but even just having the ability of having information online and having data and really making things easier for people to be able to find is a big takeaway. Another one is really that availability, or that accessibility. If people are, it's the reality of it is, we're all online. If your products and your services are not on there, not easily found, you're doing yourself a major disservice. You need to change that. So big takeaway to be thinking about as we start rolling into 2019. So again, thanks for watching this episode. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer them. You can reach out to IndustrialSage.com/questions. We answer them all the time for you. And we'll answer them here on the show. If you're listening on iTunes, we'd love a review. If you're on social media, please share our content. We'd love it. That's it. I'm done for today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode of Industrial Sage. Hey, we'd love for you to be part of a survey that we're doing with IndustrialSage. What we're doing is we are reaching out to all the manufacturing and industrial companies in our database and around, looking to build our insights. We'd love for you to take this quick survey. It's a couple questions. What we're trying to do is figuring out what are you guys thinking and planning for 2019? So the more contributors that we have to putting in their information, the better the results that we can have. We'd love for you to take a part of it. It's just gonna take a few minutes of your time, and then we'll be able to release this great report for you in the next few months that'll help in your planning for 2019. So go ahead and fill that out, just take a few minutes, and you're gonna get something that's highly valuable in just a few months.